This video is going to be a film study look at what I think is an interesting opportunity for Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions to build depth at their position, outside linebacker. But in this case, with Ogbo Okoronkwo, a guy who offers a pass rush skill set that really nobody else can provide other than Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, on the roster currently, right? Maybe Zadarius Smith is returning. I would want him and Okoronkwo. Okoronkwo is a guy who I have a little bit of knowledge of, probably more than most Lions fans. He is a guy with only 17 career sacks, but I've seen him firsthand the last 2 years with the Browns, that is. I never really knew that he was drafted by Brad Holmes when Brad Holmes was in the Rams front office and was running the draft, I think back in 2018. For me, I would say he's a guy with a fastball. Um, and not just a pass rush outside linebacker. There's some really good film of him against the run that maybe I'll try to show later this evening if you guys would like to see it. I don't rely on PFF or rating services. I watch the film and tell you what I think. I already kind of had some notions or ideas about Okoronkwo because of my experience watching him play against the Ravens. I think he's a really good football player at 6'2", 250, solid, better against the run than some may suspect. And to me, he's a guy that offers a skill set that really the rest of the Lions' edge defenders, as it stands right now in late June, really don't offer besides Aiden Hutchinson. So in order to win consistently, whether you have a large frame like a Marcus Davenport or not, you've got to threaten with the bull rush, right? And Okoronkwo being 6'2", 250, smaller in stature than some of those guys. I wouldn't say that the bull rush is his specialty, certainly, but as long as you can get a draw out of those situations between you and a starting level offensive tackle, you can redirect or get to the football like you see this sack against Deshaun Watson and the Browns from 2022. Okoronkwo spent one season in Houston after being drafted by the Rams. He actually participated in the Rams Super Bowl season of 2021 before moving on to the Browns, ironically, for the last 2 years. This time, an inside move, and I'm trying to establish here that he provides the requisite ability to win in three locations. Inside moves, like you see here against the Cowboys for a forced fumble by Dak Prescott in 2022. Outside pass rush moves, which we'll focus on a little bit later, and then the bull rush that I showed you against the Browns, like I said, ironically, from the first clip. He's got a really short, explosive step at times, if you ask me. Again, 6'2", 250, not the longest arms out there from a testing standpoint. But if you were to compare him to the other guys on the roster right now, I think he compares favorably just focusing on the pass rush element. Again, omitting Aiden Hutchinson from the conversation or from that point. And that's really, I think the larger issue is that you're one injury away still without a Zadarius Smith, without some other veteran like this that's reliable from an availability standpoint. You're one injury away from being in a difficult situation to handle from an edge rush perspective. Going through the rest of the roster that's there or the rest of the players that are at that OLB edge rusher position, Muhammad did have 3 sacks in 2024. I think he's got 15 for his career. He's actually been around, I think, 1 or 2 seasons longer than Okoronkwo. I thought Muhammad played well in 2024 when he got opportunities, right? And I actually like him being on the roster and be available. I think he's a good football player. Josh Pascal, moving down the list, he's got 5 sacks in 3 years. I just don't think he's a third-round pass rush guy for me. Good player. Again, I like that Detroit has him on the roster. I just don't think he's the answer for who rushes the quarterback for this Lions team in 2025. The next guy available, Marcus Davenport. Look, of course, he has 24 career sacks, right? There's a ton of potential there. He can disrupt the game. He's got a well-known, incredible bull rush. I think his snaps do need to be limited if you expect him to play 16 or 17 games. And what I mean by that is it's unrealistic, in my opinion, to expect or think that you're going to get 50 snaps a game out of Marcus Davenport over a 16 or 17 game season. I would love to see that, don't get me wrong, because the talent is there. It's just not realistic, in my opinion, at this point. The more depth needs to be built, in my opinion. Hopefully keep Davenport in that 35 to 38, maybe 40 snaps per game range, and you can get him through a whole season because, there is devastating potential there, like I mentioned earlier, especially with a bull rush. I haven't mentioned Hassanin right yet. I'll talk about him in a moment. But Zadarius Smith was, consistently productive dating back to like 2018, 19. He may want more money, right, than a 1 year deal, than like a Okoronkwo. I think the 2026 cap situation is looming for Detroit. And for me, the best case scenario is one or both of those guys on 1 year deals, such that the team could withstand an injury to a Hutchinson or a Davenport or someone who might have to miss a game, and you still would have quality guys available to put out there at the edge spot. I'm trying to cover all the bases here from a film standpoint in terms of the three directions, to simplify it that you can win. Giving you a bull rush on the first snap, the sack against the Browns and Deshaun Watson, the inside move against the Cowboys for the forced fumble. We'll give you two speed rush or topside moves, if you will. A little bit of a chop here against Broderick Jones, right tackle for the Steelers. This is 2023 film. I'm pretty much forced to use 2023 or 2022 film at this point. 2024 stuff is um, almost always hit for copyright, so I really don't get to publish it and keep my production monetized. I hope you understand, but I'm just showing you what he can do in terms of winning to the inside, to the outside, or the bull rush square, if you will, or depending on which half of the man you're attacking. I think this is a guy who's professional, who's got all the moves that can provide something for the Lions to offer more so in terms of more consistency than some of the other guys that are available. In watching the film of him against the Ravens the last couple of years, because I had all of those games, obviously, his play strength is the thing that kind of shows up. Here's a little bit of a cross chop, somewhat similar to the last one, except this one's got a little bit more of a jab to the inside. I'm talking about this right step here to at least threaten the tackle, Daniel Filele, who's since been moved to guard, in fact, to at least threaten him with the bull rush and then get the arms to raise up and chop to squeeze by on the top side for a pretty clean win, if you ask me. I get it if you're tired of me or others putting out edge rusher video or content focused stuff. But for my money, unless or until Zadarius Smith returns or Okoronkwo was to come to Detroit on a 1 year deal, right now I think it's a bad setup for that position. Now, as far as Hassanin goes, I like his game. I really thought that he was a guy who should have been drafted earlier, who would go earlier. Let me rephrase that. I would have thought he would be one of those edge rushers taken early to maybe mid fourth round in this draft. That didn't happen. The Lions were able to get him in the sixth round, which is great value if you ask me. I think there's also the opportunity for occasional use of Derek Barnes, who's a heck of a football player, right? As a hybrid outside linebacker, inside linebacker, especially to the boundary. I will link up a video that I did about Barnes, I think prior to 2024 and then also in 2023, that I think I attempted to explain all that I think he's capable of. But the reality is he's not a pass rush impact guy at all. And Okoronkwo is. He's a guy who has film that I'm showing you here. Absent him or Zadarius Smith being available, again, the injury scares me in terms of what you might have to roll out there with at the DN slash outside linebacker spot. I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but if Hutchinson were to miss a game, who are you confident in as a pairing? Who are you confident in as a duo to put out there and expect them to actually get to the quarterback, right? Muhammad and Pascal together, Davenport and Barnes, Hassanin. I'm looking forward to seeing him in the preseason because we'll get an idea of what he can actually possibly offer in 2025. But but really, until that day comes, meaning the first preseason game against the Chargers, where we'd expect to see a Hassanin on the field, this is kind of what we're reduced to. I do like Okoronkwo's ability to redirect. In this case, it's after a chip. Now, this is the famous crossover play for Myles Garrett against the center, which really causes the disruption and gets Joe Burrow out of the pocket immediately. Okoronkwo was able to redirect and get a sack. Like I said, 17 career sacks for him. He did play with Zadarius Smith. In fact, Zadarius Smith is on the field for this particular snap right here. I think we've got a guy who's a veteran who can provide good quality reps, good sound football play, whether it's against the run or the pass. I think this probably his most explosive move. This is the one that I was looking forward to showing you the most. Again, 2022 film, and absolute destruction with this inside spin move against the left tackle for the Jags, which is kind of interesting because you would think that as the tackle, you're expecting some possible outside help from this running back, right? If the running back was releasing, through the B gap, then you would expect that the tackle would make sure he doesn't get beat to the top side. He being the tackle doesn't get beat to the top side. As it stands, the running back is to the outside. He really shouldn't lose here to the inside, in my opinion. And in this case, Okoronkwo, brutally efficient spin move, the type of move that, again, I just don't think Pascal, some of those other guys, Barnes, really offer at all at this point in my mind. Here's the same play from the all 22 angle, excuse me, to kind of just give you an idea of the path that he takes to get to the quarterback. This is one of the reasons why I said I think his inside moves are the most impactful, the most effective overall. Those are the ones where he just is able to get to a direct path, either through an outside jab step, almost crossover ish type move, or this ridiculous spin move that I talked about from the end zone angle a moment. It's obviously a little bit unfair to judge the Lions' defense overall in 2024, given all the injuries that occurred. Obviously, the biggest loss being Hutchinson. He was a big part of the sack production early in the season. Of course, he had 4.5 sacks, I think, in week 2. Detroit, however, still only finished with 37 sacks as a team. Let's be realistic and say that with Hutchinson available and the pace he was on, you're looking at a range of it somewhere between 45 and 48 sacks as a team. You're welcome to, in the comment section, let me know, where you think we are in terms of projection there. But my overall point that I'm going to keep hammering is, if you don't have requisite depth at a position, in this case outside linebacker, and one or two of your most dominant or important players is unavailable, Hutchinson or Davenport seems to be the two players they're depending on or relying on the most. What do you do? How can you account for that? I think you've got to have quality depth built. And this, to me, looks like an opportunity to bring in a pretty damn good football player who's got some production on film, like I'm showing you here. I think what I'll do is take a look at two specific games, depending on interest level. For those of you in the audience, I'll take a look at or display some film against the Steelers from 2023, where pretty much Okoronkwo was matched up with Broderick Jones, the first round offensive tackle that was drafted in 2023 by the Steelers, and really just go over pass rush reps and run defense. He had a spectacular game that day. In fact, I think he had 4 tackles for loss, sack, a second quarterback hit. Um, I hope you enjoyed this video, first of all. I'm going to cut it short here. I think, again, to say it for probably the third or fourth time, a great opportunity here for the Lions front office to add proven depth. I think he's a better pass rusher than Muhammad, Pascal. It's really not even close in that regard. Hassanin, like I said, is a little bit of a wild card. Training camp in the preseason will give us more hints as to what he can offer for 2025. I think it's entirely possible that Hassanin is a guy who might be ready right now, and certainly the reports and indications coming out were really good from some of the rookie minicamp stuff. I think the Lions have money available for a 1-year deal here. It's quite possible that an Okoronkwo signing means that a Zadarius Smith might not return. You're welcome to let me know what you think of that thought there, or my final one, which is I think the Lions would be remiss to not bring in at least one of those guys to add or continue to add and build depth to the defensive end slash outside linebacker position. One that I think is ready for Detroit's defense to really take a step forward because of all the injuries that occurred last year. Really historic in terms of what they were able to do with really third string guys out on the field so much later on in the regular season. In any case, if you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comment section. I recognize there may be some who are like another edge rusher video, but it's a position I think Detroit still has to finalize or put an exclamation point on, or at least a period, as they get ready for training camp to be. Appreciate you guys' time. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study look at Okoronkwo, a guy who would be moving to his 4th NFL team since leaving the Rams in 2021 after their Super Bowl victory, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.